said back in the 80s that Michael Keaton wouldn't make a good Batman? Come on, meow. Let's do it. Yes, last night I watched with my son Troy, who's 8, the 1989 Batman. I thought he was ready for this film. I don't think he's ready for the Nolan films, but I thought 89's Batman, I thought this would be a good film to start him off with Batman on. We've been talking about watching it for a while, and I got his mother to agree to let him watch it with me. And he's kind of been pushing off, but last night he's like, let's do it, Dad. Let's watch that movie. So I said, let's do it, because he's off of school, because everything is going on. So we sat and watched it, and I gotta say, watching him watch this film was fun as hell, because he was glued to the screen. He was in awe of some of the set pieces, what goes on, some of the back gadgets. He loved the film. At the end of it, he had a ton of questions for me, and it was fun going down. It's been a while. I own a Blu-ray. I've owned it for a while, but it's been probably about 3 or 4 years since I've watched this movie, and I've always liked this film. When this movie was released in 89, I was 10 years old. I didn't see it in a theater. My parents took me. We went to see it at the drive-in. And when it was released on VHS, we bought it. My parents bought it for me, and I watched the shit out of that VHS tape. I wore that thing out. I watched it constantly. I was obsessed with this movie. And I was not a comic book kid. I don't read comic books at all. If that's your thing, good on you. It's not my thing. But I do like some of the comic book characters. And I like comic book movies, most of them, not all of them. But I always was fascinated with Batman, and I was excited to see this film. But I was unaware of the backlash that was going around about Michael Keaton being cast as Batman. Or even there was a little backlash about Tim Burton being hired to direct the film. Because up to that point, Tim Burton had only directed Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Beetlejuice. And Beetlejuice is a fantastic film. I love Beetlejuice. But going back and doing a little research, Tim Burton was actually hired to do Batman after Pee-wee's Big Adventure because that was a hit. It wasn't a huge hit, but it was a hit. But they held off on greenlighting Batman until they saw how Beetlejuice turned out, or if that was a hit. And when that was a hit, they greenlit Batman. And it goes to understand why Tim Burton hired Michael Keaton, because they had just worked together on Beetlejuice. So Tim Burton obviously saw something in Michael Keaton that thought he could play this role. And so it wasn't until years later, when I was a little older, that I realized that people had a major problem with Michael Keaton playing Batman. I was unaware of it, and I didn't understand it. I mean, now that I'm older, I have my opinions when I hear of casting. Like, really, is that who you're? I mean, when they hired Heath Ledger as Joker, I didn't hate the decision, but I was like, really, Heath Ledger as Joker? But the results were incredible, and just shows you what the hell do I know. But we all have our opinions on who should be hired for what roles. And obviously the fanboys had opinions back then, and they weren't thrilled with Michael Keaton. But anyway, Michael Keaton plays Bruce Wayne in Batman. Jack Nicholson was hired to play Jack Napier in Joker, although Jack Nicholson wasn't the first person in mind for Joker. Robin Williams was actually up for Joker, and then Jack Nicholson took it. Kim Basinger wasn't originally supposed to play Vicky Vale either, but she came in to play Vicky Vale. Robert Wuhl was hired to play Knox the Reporter. Pat Hingle, he's not with us anymore, but a wonderful character actor, was hired to play Commissioner Gordon. Billy D. Williams plays Harvey Dent, the coolest man on the planet. Michael Gough was hired as Alfred, mainly because Tim Burton was a huge Hammer horror film fan. And Michael Gough was in quite a few Hammer horror films, and he hired him for that. And then he was in a lot of Tim Burton films after that. Jack Palance was hired as Grissom, the mob boss of Gotham. And this movie had a budget of between 30 and 40 million. On IMDb, they say 35, but I read it went up as high as 40. The movie went over budget, but it didn't matter, because when it opened in June of 1989, it made $251 million in the U.S. and $411 worldwide, and it was the highest-grossing box office movie of that summer, or that year. It even beat out Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, came out that summer, and Ghostbusters 2. Those were the 3 huge movies that came out that summer. And Jack Nicholson actually, too, took less money up front to be in this film, and he took a back-end deal to get some of the profits. And it reports that he made anywhere between $50 and $90 million off this film. No wonder he loves this Batman so much. He's really good in the film, but no wonder he loves this movie so much. He made a ton of money off this film. So let's get into the movie a little bit. If you're my age or younger, or even a little older, I'm sure you remember this movie if you like these kind of films. But the movie opens showing Gotham City, very Art Deco-ish, And like all Tim Burton movies, this movie has wonderful production design. It's beautifully shot, very gothically shot. It's a Tim Burton film after all. And we see this couple and their son going through Gotham. They're on vacation. After seeing the city, though, why would you go there on vacation? I'm not quite sure, but they're there on vacation. They go down this alley because Dad thinks he knows where he's going, and the wife's trying to tell him they're going the wrong way, but sometimes us dudes don't listen. And they end up falling prey to a couple of muggers. And the muggers take their cash and some other things, and they retreat to this rooftop to split up the money. And the one mugger even says to the other, have you heard about this bat going around and this and that? And the other guy's like, shut up, there is no bat. Well, Batman shows up and kicks their asses, and he's hanging the one guy off the roof, and he goes, I want you to tell all your friends about me. He goes, who are you? And that's where we get the famous, I'm Batman. Throws him onto the rooftop, and then Batman jumps off the roof, and we're on our way. Then we're introduced to Jack Napier, played by Jack Nicholson, who works for Grissom, the mob boss, who is played by Jack Palance. Jack Napier is Grissom's number one guy. But Grissom is not too happy because Jack is having an affair with his girlfriend or wife. They never specify what she is. So he sets Jack up, tells him he wants him to pull off a job at his chemical plant, and he calls his mole in the police department, tells him what's going on in the hopes that the police will kill Jack in the process. Unfortunately for Grissom, Batman shows up to apprehend the bad guys, and Jack Napier goes to shoot Batman when on this one catwalk. Batman deflects the bullet, goes off this machine, hits Jack in the face. He falls over a railing, and then he falls into a vat of chemicals. And after some off-the-market surgery, so shall we say, the Joker is born, and he takes his revenge and kills Grissom, and basically kills all the mob bosses in town and takes over the crime world of Gotham City. And Vicky Vale comes to town to work with Knox because she's fascinated by this Batman story, but nobody believes Knox. And the police aren't talking about it, and neither is the mayor or Harvey Dent, who's the DA, obviously. And they end up going to a party at Wayne Manor. This is before the whole chemical plant thing. And later on, she kind of falls in love with Bruce Wayne, but she doesn't know he's Batman yet. But also, the Joker is infatuated with Vicky Vale, and he tries to take her for himself. Batman saves her. And then in a moment that I know is a big point of contention with comic book fans, Alfred lets Vicky Vale into the Batcave, which I know in Batman Returns, they kind of take a shot at Alfred by Bruce Wayne saying, well, who the hell let Vicky Vale into the Batcave, huh? I turn around and there's, oh, hi, Vicky. So they kind of throw it back at Alfred or that decision. Now, from what I read, that was not Tim Burton's idea, along with the Prince songs being in the movie, which I don't mind now because I'm so used to it, but they are kind of out of place. Tim Burton says that wasn't his idea either. I have my own ideas of who I think that might be. If you look at the producers, I think you can figure it out. There's a producer on this film who has been known through the years for having some batshit crazy ideas in films, and let's just thank God he doesn't produce many films anymore. But I won't say his name. All you can do is look through the producers list. It's not too hard to figure out who that man is, because that man, in my opinion, the man's a hack, and thank God he's not producing movies anymore. At least I don't think he is. He's not as big as he used to be anyway. So anyway, at the end of the movie, we have our final confrontation with the Joker and Batman. Joker takes Vicky Vale up on top of this church, and he's going to take her with him. Batman's in pursuit. We get our final fight between Joker and Batman. Joker falls off the top of the tallest church I've ever seen, and dies. And Batman gives the city his spotlight so they can tell him when something's going on, so he'll respond. And that's the end of the movie, folks. We see Batman stand on top of the building. Sorry, I know I don't have the coronavirus. And that's the movie that led us into Batman Returns, which I also like that film. I do not like Batman Forever or Batman Robin. No, I hate both those films. Not equally, though. Batman Robin is a crime against cinema. And I'll give Joel Schumacher credit. He had the balls to apologize for that abomination. But anyway, I would give Batman a 9 out of 10. I like it a lot. I've always liked it. I actually love this movie. Yes, there's some things that are a little dated and there's some corny stuff in there. But damn, isn't it a fun time at the movies? It really is. And watching it last night with my son, I really did forget how well paced this film is. There's not a lot of downtime. And the downtime there is important to the story. There's not a moment wasted, really. And it's 2 hours long, and it moves. My son, when it was over, my son's like, "That movie wasn't long at all." I'm like, "Well, it's 2 hours long." He goes, "It didn't feel like it." I'm like, "No, it doesn't actually." Watching it again, it's really well paced. Tim Burton keeps it moving. The movie's very well shot. The action can be a little clunky, and that has a lot to do with the suit was so constricting on the stuntman that the moves aren't as fluid as they should be. But the action is really well shot. You can see everything that's going on. There's some really iconic moments in the movie, and Danny Elfman's score is spectacular. I loved Hans Zimmer's score for the Nolan films, but I got to be honest, Danny Elfman's score for this film is my favorite out of all the scores for Batman. It's so iconic, and I have it for my ringtone on my phone. But yeah, sorry, can't stop coughing. Allergies are killing me right now. But yeah, I give Batman 89 a 9 out of 10. If you've never seen it, I highly recommend it. If you have seen it, what are your thoughts on Burton's Batman? Leave a comment down below. Let me know. Is this your favorite Batman? What's your favorite Batman film? Tell me down below. I'd love to hear from you. Do me a favor. Give this video a thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it. Subscribe here. Join me. And hit the notification bell so you'll get an alert every time I upload a video. That's it for me. Thanks. Have a great day. Take care of yourself. Stay safe. And I'll be back soon. See ya. Bye.